Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and we're fresh out of the Golden Globes. They just finished up about like a minute or two ago, and we both watched it live, and now we're coming here to give you fresh reactions to the winners and also what it means on the overall Oscar race going forward.
What we're really wanting to do here is talk about what this means. So, Dylan, overall, how did you feel about the show? What's one big takeaway that you have from tonight?
I mean, overall, I think the show had, on like a technical level, had some very big positives and had some pretty big negatives. I'm always a fan of clips. There was really not many clips, and when we had clips, they were very short. But I did like some of the things they tried to do differently to like separate themselves. I like the little like pinpoint saying this is where the actor's sitting. I like the fun facts, especially the ones that weren't like real facts but were more like comedic facts, to learn a little bit more about these creatives involved. But again, no clips I think is a massive negative. And then the pacing of the show I felt was like really off. It had so much momentum going forward, and then they let some of the presenters go on way too long. And then like the back half of the show, they're like, oh, we're so far behind schedule. Everyone, you don't say anything. You just present and you get out of there.
On a show level, I thought that this was terribly directed in general. There was constant cuts to the wrong people. At one point, I think Zoe Saldana or someone said something about Carla Sofia Gascon, and they cut to Sofia Vergara. And there was lots of moments like that where it would just cut to someone that was clearly not meant to be on screen, or when the guy from Shogun, they didn't put him on screen for his nomination. They put Gary Oldman up instead. There was so many technical issues like that, so many things where it was clear that something was just going wrong in the editing room, in the switchboards. You do this for a job, so I'm sure you know how all of this goes to a certain level, maybe not at this scale, but I have rarely seen live TV as rough as that was tonight.
Yeah, I would echo that as someone who does something very similar to this, but obviously not this for a living. There were so many wrong punches, and I get like, oh, surprises happen. But like you said, for like the Shogun one, you have a camera guy who's supposed to be in front of the nominee. Why is there a camera guy at Gary Oldman? Someone's got to catch that in the control room. And I doubt it's just one director. I'm sure there's a technical director. I'm sure there's multiple people in there to be like, yeah, that's the right person. And like, how does that get by? And it wasn't just the one instance, like you said, numerous times out. And sometimes even during presentations of like saying, oh, these are the nominees, they would just cut to like, there's this one time very late during the show, they cut to like backstage and there was no audio. It was like during Viola Davis or someone. I'm like, what are you doing here? But we're not here to critique the directing and the mess that was the visuals of the show. We're here to talk about the award winners, and why don't we start right up top with Best Motion Picture, and let's kick things off on the drama side, since we kicked things off on the musical comedy side when we did our reactions and nominations for this show. So for drama, at least, Brutalist does come through. It wins the big prize. It's not Conclave. It's none of these other films. Brutalist shows its strength for the first time, not even for the first time, but for the first major award show that we have. Brutalist is taking the biggest prize there is.
Brutalist had a great night, winning director and Adrian Brody and Best Picture Drama. I had predicted Conclave. I thought it was going to pick up screenplay and picture, while Brutalist would pick up Brody. And I think I went Odiard with director, but we'll talk about that later. Generally, though, how I feel about The Brutalist is not changing whatsoever. This is a film that's going to do extremely well on single choice voting, but when it comes to a preferential ballot, that's where I think it's going to struggle. And so I believe we're going to see Brutalist not just pick up this, but I think it'll win the BAFTA. I do struggle, however, to see it winning the Oscar at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know I've kind of gotten this reputation in our Discord chat as being a Brutalist hater. I still enjoy the film overall. I was just more weary with how its prospects would go. It's nearly a 4-hour film when you include the intermission. The second half is what people seem to not be very receptive of, but as we see here at the Golden Globes, maybe a more contained body can respond very well to it. And like you said, a body that only votes for number one placements. Clearly, The Brutalist, as we've said all year long, even against Conclave. Conclave is a film that benefits from the preferential ballot. I just felt like with the nominations across the board and just the tone of the season so far to this point, Conclave had a lot going for it, where this seems like such a Golden Globes type winner. But yes, Brutalist, it wins here. For me, it's not changing a lot in terms of Best Picture, but for me, it does change some stuff in some other categories that we'll touch on here in a little bit.
I will say, and we could talk about director, I suppose, because it kind of goes along with picture, seeing as The Brutalist won both. All that Brutalist winning Golden Globe drama is doing for me is it's cementing my belief that Brady Corbet will just sweep the season. I have a feeling he's basically going to take everything from here on out. I don't believe that transfers into picture, but I am feeling like that is one of our locks at this point.
And I think I would tend to agree. I mean, early on in the season, I know I was chiming the bells for Denis Villeneuve in Dune Part 2 of how Warner Brothers was doing more to get him out there, and it felt like there was an open path because, again, I've said numerous times, I'm not going to regurgitate here, I saw faults with what The Brutalist could be doing going down the line, but here at least, maybe we're completely off base, and this is going back to something like 2022 where Steven Spielberg wins for The Fabelmans, and that repeats nowhere else, but that year had everything everywhere. It had the Daniels that felt so strong, and clearly the Globes just weren't receptive to it. And this year, even if Anora goes on to win everywhere else, even if Conclave is our eventual Best Picture winner, those don't feel like directing winners. Those feel much more like screenplay winners. So I think I will agree with you. I also had Ariard in my predictions here because I thought Emilia Perez would basically run the table, which it sort of did, but did not win in director. And Corbet is what I'm going to rock with for the rest of the season.
And I will say that one argument for The Brutalist winning Best Picture and an argument for it winning Director is what Brady Corbet was saying in his speech tonight for Best Picture Drama, that no one wanted to take a chance on this movie. He's really championing filmmakers. He's championing artists. He's saying that the people with money, the big studios, the distributors, they don't like giving artists a chance. And you see, we made this film despite the fact that nobody wanted it and everyone said it would be a failure. We made it anyways, and now here we are. I think that is the best case for a Brutalist win, appealing to people's hearts, because like we've been saying ever since I saw this at TIFF, this is the type of movie that, like Roma, like Power of the Dog, appeals to people's brains so much more than their hearts. And those types of movies often do very well, again, on single pick ballots, and they struggle on preferential. Roma lost, Power of the Dog lost, and The Brutalist, if it can't appeal to people's hearts, it will lose too.
And I guess one of my cases for why I was a little bit more weary on The Brutalist going forward is a lot of the cases that you just made there in comparison of, like Power of the Dog, of Roma. These are films that, while yes, they are technically brilliant, they are films that struggle to connect. And those films, while yes, they ended up losing Best Picture, but they won Best Director, they had the benefit of having a director who was a previous nominee and had just enormous career narrative behind them, had so many great works to their name. And Brady Corbet is a guy who had one previous film that was very divisive, and at least to me, it's like he felt great for a nomination. Would people go out of their way to vote for him this first time around? And at least here at the Golden Globes, it seemed like they have. And I guess let's just stick with the drama. Let's talk about The Brutalist overall here at first, because in addition to winning picture, in addition to winning director, it also won Best Performance by a Male Actor in a Motion Picture Drama for Adrien Brody over Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, which was my prediction here, and it was someone I had been hyping up all season, championing as saying would be the eventual Best Actor winner. And I mean, I feel like personally, Brody gave the best speech of the night.
I think you're crazy. That speech was incredibly underwhelming in my opinion. He couldn't even remember the names of the people in the category with him at first. And, you know, it's not that it was a bad speech. It's just that I can't get behind saying best of the night when we also had Demi Moore getting up there and saying, I thought my career was over and no one's ever given me awards before. And I thought that that would never be something that happened for me because I was told I was just the box office person. That was the speech of the night. And We'll talk about that later, but I think that speech might have shifted the entire trajectory of the season. Adrian Brody's speech was fine. It was just like, thanks, Dad. But it does solidify for me the path that Adrian Brody has to win the Oscar. He's gonna keep going down that road, and he will likely sweep the season at this point.
And yeah, I mean, his biggest chance, I guess, to lose going forward would be at the SAG Awards. But I mean, like, CCA seems pretty wrapped up in a bow regardless of what happened tonight for Brody, and BAFTA seems like most likely. Yes, they went with Austin Butler, but BAFTA seemed like a place the Brutalist should very well succeed in. And if it wasn't Brody, it wouldn't be Chalamet. Probably there it would be Fiennes. But SAG would be the only place where I was thinking, like, oh, it would be a 2-2 split, and then the eventual Oscar going to Timmy. But here, as you just said, Brody kicks the race off, and he is probably going to go all the way from here.
Look, Timmy has next year. Don't fret, Dylan.
We'll talk about that next year. I don't think I see the same vision there. But you talk about Demi Moore maybe having a platform to the Best Actress race starting off at the Golden Globes. And that's because most of her competition was over on the comedy musical side. Over here on the Best Drama Actress side, none of these 6 had their films over in the Best Picture category. And none of these 6 will probably have their films in the Best Picture considerations at the Oscars. So here it was a very interesting place because you're not facing any of the real people out there say has win contention. And in fact, a lot of these people are battling for that 5th slot at the Oscars. There was a camp out there who said Angelina Jolie because she was the most likely for the Oscar nomination. There's a camp out there for Nicole Kidman, which was myself, because of the international praise for her film over at Venice and how Nicole Kidman is such a Globes darling. And then there was the camp out there who said, hey, Globes, they got a lot of people down in South America voting. Brazil's there. Brazil loves I'm Still Here. And even though she missed the BAFTA long list, she's taken the Golden Globe.
Brazil wins tonight, man. Brazil is... Fernanda Torres is one of the great Brazilian performers, and this was really cool to see her win here. And in my opinion, this is horrific for Nicole Kidman, who is a Globes darling, has so many Golden Globes. They basically give her an award every time she shows up. She has 20 nominations and something like 5 wins. Could you fact check me on that? So for Nicole Kidman to lose, she basically wins out. She won for being the Ricardos. Like, that's a bad loss there. And Angelina Jolie, this is just another hit against her after she missed the BAFTA shortlist. Now, Fernanda Torres, this is making me think I kind of have to put her in for the Oscar. I kind of have to, because, hear me out, there's only been, I think, 4 times in all of Golden Globes history that the winner of Best Actress Drama has not gone on to be nominated at the Oscars. In 2008, Kate Winslet won for Revolutionary Road, was not nominated because she was instead nominated for The Reader, which she ended up winning for. So I don't count that because she still got nominated. She still won, just for a different movie than she won for at the Globes. And then before that, it was in the 80s. Shirley MacLaine won the Golden Globe and did not get nominated for the Oscar. But here's the asterisk to that. She won in a 3-way tie at the Golden Globes, and the other 2 winners of the category did go on to Oscar nominations. So, if you were to go to the last time that someone who won Golden Globe Drama Actress did not get nominated for the Oscar, you would have to go back past the 70s. I can't, off the top of my head, I don't know who it was, but it's at least past the 70s. That is a long-standing record. Are we going to see that this year? I don't know. It could be a stat breaker. This could be something that comes down to the fact that the Golden Globes are a different voting body than they have been in the past. But ultimately, I think that getting Fernanda Torres up on stage tonight is a massive boon for her campaign. And I just logically, statistically, can't leave her out of my lineup.
And, I think I might come around to agree with you because I have For the last few weeks, I've had Nicole Kidman as my number 5. And for the fact check there, she has won 5 acting, 6 overall Globes for producing was the other one. So she has gotten a lot of acclaim from the Globes in the past. And my thinking was, hey, yes, she missed on the CCA nom, but she was going to win the Globe. She was going to get the SAG nomination, and most likely she was probably going to get the BAFTA as well. That seems great for that 5th slot, and I had Angelina Jolie out. And tandem of 1, people just not talking about that film. 2, this year, Netflix. We talk about them all the time for acting, but what at least seems to me for Netflix this year is it's all for Emilia Perez. All their other films, they don't care about. And I think this shows it here that they didn't really campaign Jolie enough to win when she should have won in a landslide. And like you just said, Torres wins here. She's in front of people. Yes, she missed the BAFTA long list, but hey, this is a film that appeals very much to those international voters. And we've seen the last few years, the Academy, they're getting more international, and this seems right up their alley. And barring Marion Jean-Baptiste being that 5th slot, I think it might be Fernanda Torres.
I think we should move over to the comedy musical categories now, where Emilia Perez takes Best Picture, something that I know both of us have kind of been saying, despite everyone saying no one likes that movie. There's no way it's going to get awards. You and I have both been saying all along that it's a bubble online that dislikes this movie, and that out there in the Academy, in the industry, in these groups that do the voting for these big awards shows, that's going to be very different. And I think that was proven tonight because Emilia Perez won 4 awards altogether.
Yeah, and I mean, to touch on the first thing that you said about no one likes this movie, that's factually incorrect because we both like this movie. But in addition to that, I think the people who really hate this movie are our age demographic. They're the people who are on Twitter, the people on Letterboxd, the people in these Discord servers. They don't like the movie, and I don't want to generalize people, but like when a large portion of people start to hate on a movie, you're kind of going to have those feelings interact with yours. And I know I am at fault of this for some films, even into the other direction. If people are praising a film, I may be a little bit more positive to a film, but that's not what we're here to discuss. Emilia Perez is appealing to the right people. As we see at the Globes, as you said, it's won so many, the BAFTA long list. I'm sure it will do great with other awards bodies and guilds the further we go into the season. And then festivals are eating this up. You saw firsthand at Cannes and at TIFF where it won major awards there. I've seen firsthand at the smaller festivals I've gone to that Emilia Perez has played at the London Film Festival, the Virginia Film Festival. The people on the street there are loving those movies, and the disconnect just seems massive. It seems large, but it has a package. And I mean, this win at the Globes, I think firmly cements it as a top 3 competitor going forward in the Best Picture race.
I agree with you, and I think we could be gearing up for a major, like, crash type thing where there's just such a huge disconnect between Hollywood and what the internet thinks is good. I'm not predicting that, but I do think that there's a possibility. Now, that said, because Brady Corbet seems to be sweeping director, that's probably not happening, but there is definitely a path for Emilia Perez to win Best Picture despite how much the internet hates it. I don't think that's going to be the reality. Again, it wasn't the reality here at the Globes. I don't think it'll be the reality with the Academy. I don't think it'll be the reality with BAFTA. I just really think that the internet is in a massive bubble on this one. And if it were to win, people are going to surprise Pikachu, but the signs are there.
Yeah, and I mean, I just opened up Twitter during the award show there just to see reactions, and every time Emilia Perez won something, especially early on, it was winning everything. The people just reacting and saying this is the worst thing ever, this is why these award shows don't matter, was on full force. But clearly the people in the room that are voting, are watching these films, are liking it. And if you go to social media and you look at people who have a vote and you look at their Q&As or videos like that, people are going out of their way to support this film. And maybe it's because they have buddies inside the film, maybe because it appeals to a certain demographic, but like, this movie has its fans, and we've seen that here. Because I think instead of going over to actor and actress in a comedy, we should just touch on all the Emilia Perez wins, because in addition to comedy musical picture, it also won non-English language film, which was pretty obvious at first. And I mean, I think it's going to continue to win that. at these industry award shows, we saw at the critics that they're going to lean more towards All We Imagine Is Light, where maybe that would have been a race if it was eligible, but we know how that story plays out with India not selecting it for the Oscars. And the thing I want to touch on real quick with this category, and something I said a little bit before, is how I'm Still Here, I think, is emerging as the number 2. And I'm not currently predicting a snub for See the Sacred Fig, but just the reaction to it at BAFTA, how it's not been hitting at the industry award so far. I could see this going the way of, now I'm blanking on the movie's name.
Decision to Leave?
Yeah, the way of Decision to Leave, and being the surprise miss at the Oscars.
You're insane. There's no way.
I mean, that's what people would have said the year of Decision to Leave as well, but
no, because there was precedent for that missing. Fig is not missing, and you can, God, I'll eat my damn hat if it happens, but it's not missing. It's not one of the vulnerable ones. It's not vulnerable. And I will stand by that until it happens.
And like I said, I'm not currently predicting it, but with Emilia Perez showing its dominance, I'm Still Here growing stronger by the day. We'll touch on animated, but there looks to be a film there that's really cemented itself in that category, and that will bleed over to the international feature category. And then from there, we always have surprises. And if a film was going to slip, I think it would be that one instead of those other 3.
I think that's ridiculous. I think saying that Kneecap, saying that Flow is stronger than Fig makes absolutely no sense to me.
Well, we will have to see going forward, but just to touch on some of these other Emilia Perez wins, the next one would be Supporting Actress in a Motion Picture, this one going to Zoe Saldana, and there was always this debate about who is the front runner, who is going to win the most awards here at the industry, Grande, Saldana. I never understood why anyone said Grande would win at the Globes. This is such a body that is going to eat up Emilia Perez, as we've seen, and if Grande wins anywhere, it's going to be CCA. They showed the most love for Wicked, the least enthusiasm for Emilia. Emilia is going to eat here at the Globes. It's already 8 on the long list for the BAFTAs, and personally, at least looking at the history of SAG, they don't love going for people on their first time around and people who this is their first big movie role. They like those narratives. They like those people who have been around the block and worked with a lot of people. And Saldana has worked with so many people, and in a film that's hitting with the industry, I think she wins there as well. So it may not be a sweep, but I see Saldana at least taking 3 of the 4 major bodies.
I think it's going to depend largely on how both of the films fare at the awards. If Emilia Perez gets every single nomination it possibly could at SAG, then I'm with that. But if Wicked maxes out, then I don't know. I think we'll have to see, but I do believe however this race ends up, it's going to come down to SAG.
Touching on the last Emilia Perez win here for the night was in the original song category. We both had said El Mal was the main push and it was going to win here, which it did. We both had a little bit of a conversation. I know a lot of other people out there have had this too with, well, Mi Camino, maybe. It's got the Gomez factor. It's more catchy. You can sing along to a little bit more, but El Mal just seems so much more like what the song category really goes for, and I know I was more on the fence a little bit more than you, so I'm happy that we both stuck with El Mal and ended up winning here.
I disagree that Mi Camino is more catchy. I think El Mal is the catchy song of it. When I came out of Emilia Perez at Cannes, I was not thinking about Mi Camino, the shitty karaoke song. I was thinking about Habla, este gente habla. I was thinking about that. That was the song that stuck in my head. Even in early predictions, like all the way back in May, I remember putting down song este gente habla from Emilia Perez. I didn't know the name of the song at the time. That was just the only song that stuck with me from that movie. So to me, I feel like it's undeniable that's the most catchy song. The question that we were having was not what's the catchier song. It was what does Netflix care more about? Because they sent out their promo for your consideration vinyl, and it seemed like Mi Camino was the one that they wanted to win. That was their side A, while El Mal was side B. So that was really the whole argument. Was Netflix funneling their energy behind Mi Camino instead? And I think it's clear from this win that El Mal is going to run the table. It's going to sweep the season.
And I agree with that, and I think especially too, if Saldana continues the winning conversation, it only makes sense the song that she is singing to be the one that continues to show strength over in that category. So we've touched on all the Emilia Perez wins, so let's hop back over to the musical comedy category, and let's just talk. And let's just start with actress, because this was the surprise win of the night. Demi Moore, The Substance. There were people out there predicting her, and personally, I thought like really Moore, between all the people here, she was the one I felt like the weakest of between the main four. But clearly, I was wrong. I'll hold my L, and she wins here, which is the one I'm really happy about. While I personally would have voted maybe elsewhere, this is a win that I think has so much else going into it that just proves why the Golden Globes do matter, because they give a platform for wins like this.
I had her second. Even when the award came up, I went, it's Madison or it's Moore. And I didn't think it would matter. Honestly, I genuinely thought if anyone else won, it wouldn't shake my resolve on Mikey Madison winning. But then Demi Moore went up and gave that speech. She gave that speech. The speech where she said that she was considering quitting. The speech where she gave sort of the whole narrative on the table. She was the blockbuster actor that no one saw as serious, no one saw as worthy of attention. The second that she got up there and said, this is the first time I've ever been given an award for my acting, that was just like, that solidified she is either the front runner or she is close behind. And while I still feel like Mikey Madison wins the Critics' Choice next week, because I think there are enough ballots that have gone in already, Demi Moore could easily sweep the rest of the season. That was an immensely powerful speech. I read someone online say that the Golden Globes are mostly important because they act as an audition for your Oscar speech. And here, Demi Moore aced the audition. Incredible speech. I also would not have voted for her. I would go Mikey Madison, and I am quite disappointed that Mikey Madison lost. But at the same time, I think Demi Moore's win means more. Ultimately, that's not how the Oscars should be voted on. We shouldn't be voting on whose speech is going to be the best, whose win means more for the industry. We should just be voting for our hearts, voting for the best performance. But ultimately, even though Demi Moore might not even make my top 5, I still think that she would be a worthy win for that narrative.
And I think this just goes back to a conversation we had early on the year, and I said pretty upfront, and I didn't really stick to this, but like Madsen, even before scene, even after scene, it didn't feel like the type of win that we see at the Academy, but the motion behind Anora, the praise from her specifically, and just the traction behind that film seemed like it would be enough to overtake it. And my big thing was the competition. It's just not there. Gascon, she's great, but she's not what you think of when you watch Emilia Perez. Arrivo's in Wicked, she's showy, but hey, there's a part 2. And then other people just came and went from the conversation. I mean, there was Amy Adams, there was Jolie, there was Lady Gaga. None of them really stuck. And then personally, I never really took Demi Moore and The Substance as real competition, because I just felt like even more so than Anora, that film was just so weird and so out there for the Academy, where even it bursted its way in for a nomination, there's no way they're giving that the win. But like you said here, the speech, the reception that The Substance has been getting since we've hit specifically the industry, whether it's from the Guilds or whether it's from the BAFTA long list, or now here with the Golden Globes major win, people are showing up for this film. They're showing that they love it. They don't care how weird it is. They are watching it. And I feel like specifically this is a performance where if you watch it and you like the movie, there's not really much leeway you can have from saying, oh, I love The Substance, but I'm not voting for Demi Moore. No, if you love The Substance that much, she's probably going to get your vote too. I think the Globes proved that, and I think maybe she doesn't win CCA, but I could see her take her BAFTA, I could see her take SAG, and take that to the Oscars.
I guess small counterpoint there. I love The Substance. I would not vote for Demi Moore. So, I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt, I guess. I do want to talk about 2 things here, which is, for one, if we see Demi Moore shape up to become essentially a season sweeper, if she's winning basically everything she possibly can, and if Anora is dropping, and we see The Substance surge to Best Original Screenplay. It gets Screenplay, it gets Actress. Should we be taking The Substance seriously as a potential winner for Best Picture? Or is it too much for a preferential ballot?
I think that you make a great case there, and I think it really would come down to, because at that point it would be Brutalist versus Substance, two films that just
Or
shit
Conclave.
the bed when it comes, or Conclave. But I guess to me, Brutalist and Substance would each have a director or screenplay and an acting win, while Conclave would just have a screenplay win. And I guess even lumping in Conclave there, those are three films that have very interesting routes on a preferential. Conclave, not many ones, but I could see a ton of 2, 3, and 4s. Substance and Brutalist, a lot of 1s and 2s, a lot of 9s and 10s. And like, it really would just come down to, where is the strength there? Is all the Substance 2s Conclave, or all the Brutalist 2s Substance, or are all the Conclave 2s and 3s Substance 9s and Brutalist 9s, sort of thing. So like, I don't know. I would be more inclined to say no for Best Picture, but I could totally see this flipping the script essentially in original screenplay and be like, hey, Anora, everyone's had you since like May. But guess what? I'm here now. I won the prize at Cannes. I was always real in original screenplay, kind of like Anatomy of a Fall last year, where a lot of people were really doubting that film all year. And I know Substance did not win original screenplay here, but the Globes is where that campaign really took off and people started to believe it. And while this is mainly more for more, it could leak over to obviously makeup and hairstyling and original screenplay.
The other thing to talk about here, because we won't have a chance to talk about Anora much, because it did not win anything. Do you think the fact that Anora blanked tonight, does that change much in terms of its trajectory?
Personally, I think there's two ways to answer this question. There's answering it for other people out there, and there's answering it for myself. For myself, no, because I've had Anora being a solo screenplay winner for a little bit now. But in terms of other people, I think so. I think it would knock it down a peg off of most people's number one for Best Picture. And yes, you could go back to the Everything Everywhere year and how that had a very bad performance at the Globes, and then it rebounded almost immediately with CCA. And I think that is the real test here with Anora. Does it rebound at CCA? Is it our winner there? Does Sean Baker win 1 or 2 or 3 awards if it wants to win editing? And then does Madsen win in lead actress, which I personally believe Madsen will win the CCA. And I think Moore will end the day with 3 after tonight, and Madsen will end up with 1.
So just looking through, there have been 3 times in the expanded era where the Best Picture winner at the Oscars did not win anything at the Golden Globes. Those times are Coda, which is a massive stat breaker because obviously Coda was Coda and it came out of nowhere, but Coda blanked. Then in 2015, Spotlight blanked. That's also a massive stat breaker, and that was a year where everything scattered, right? There was the PGA, which went to The Big Short. There was BAFTA going for The Revenant, and there was SAG Ensemble going for Spotlight. And that's basically how it all shook out. And not only was it a stat breaker in that way, but it also was a stat breaker because it's one of only a couple of films, I believe, that has won Best Picture with only one other win. And the only other time in the expanded era that the winner of Best Picture has blanked at the Golden Globes was The Hurt Locker. And so that's 3 times in the past 15 years that we've had that type of bad performance happen, because although Everything Ever All at Once didn't perform well at the Globes, it's still one of few. You know, the analog would be they didn't love Anora, but they still gave it Mikey Madison, or they still gave it Screenplay, and that didn't happen. So we did see Anora blank. Is that going to change much of how I think of Anora? I don't know. I'm going to have to reflect on that, but it needs a really good Critics' Choice Awards performance after this. It needs a really good BAFTA nominations performance, and it needs to crush it at the Guilds. I'm talking it needs the SAG Ensemble nomination. It needs to potentially win PGA at this point. So Anora is definitely falling, but it's not dead yet.
And I would agree with that overall. I think that Anora's real tell will be these upcoming award shows. As we mentioned, CCA is like within a week. PGA nominations come out also within a week. So those things will kind of be the tell. And especially with PGA, substance seems like it's destined to be there. But we've seen crazier things happen where that could be the shocking miss. And then now, is it back between a race between Madsen and Moore? I think my bigger question with Anora would be is if it continues to lose strength going forward. We talk about Best Director and how it's a crazy race and we got to find room to fit people. And again, this is like Sacred Fig. I'm not predicting it, but what if Sean Baker is the one to move out of director in favor of someone else?
No. I'm not even giving credence to that thought. Not because I'm biased, but because that just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I can't see that happen. He will have all of the precursors that he needs. So I would think that would be crazy.
I would agree it would be crazy.
That said, like, whoever does miss is going to have all the precursors as well. Because you could say the same thing about Edward Berger for Conclave.
Because that was to be my point, is if it's Courbet, if it's Berger, if it's Ardiard, if it is Corley Farjah for the substance, that continues to rise, that's 4 slots. Baker could be in there as well. That could be 5. But if Nickel Boys is going to hit in the way some people think it will with the directors and it's find its way in, it has to take one of those 5 out. Or if the Academy continues to be like, hey, we nominate our international flashy directors, even though that's Ardiard and people just need to admit that's Ardiard, but they're saying, oh, if it's Capadia or something, if she gets the BAFTA. Personally, don't think she's going to get the Oscar because you need a Best Picture overlap for that. But like, again, my more thing is if it's Ramel Ross, who would he take out? And previously, Berger. I would say Farjah would be the one to take out. But if Demi Moore is in wing competition and substance continues to rise, I don't think she's the number 5 or number 6 anymore. It would either be Conclave or it'd be Anora, at least in Best Director. And maybe it makes more sense to take out Berger, but maybe it makes sense to take out Baker.
Well, Berger's direction is essentially TV direction. You know, it's the type of thing that I would think of as a DGA nomination. It's the type of thing that I would think of as it gets in there and then just misses the Oscar because they go for something a little bit more elevated, something with a little bit more art house cash to it. And, you know, that's not reading to me as Baker missing out. You know, I think the analog for Berger at this point is Alexander Payne. So I think Berger's stronger, mind you, than Alexander Payne was last year, but I see them as fitting a similar category in terms of what they represent in the category. So, I'm not going to humor the idea of Baker missing out, but if he were to, that's like, it's donezo. I mean, another thing though, if Anora does miss out on some of those extra nominations that it could get at the Oscars, I'm out on it. I'm done. You know, if Yuri Borisov, for example, misses the supporting actor lineup, there's no chance this wins Best Picture because it's missing the support where it should be getting. It's missing the support where they could have shown there was extra support for it.
And that's going to move us over to the last of the musical comedy categories. And this one, we can spend a little bit less time on it because before tonight, we were all saying, hey, all of our real competitors for the last slot in lead actor are over in the drama category. And maybe if you really want to make a case for Hugh Grant, I would listen to one. But Hugh Grant does not win here. He loses out to Sebastian Stan for A Different Man, which personally for me, while I enjoy his performance and his other movie a little bit more, I'm just happy to see him get any sort of recognition he can get inside this award season because I just feel like the man's been given a bad hand this whole year, whether it's A24 not giving much love in terms of campaigning A Different Man or just no one giving him a shot to talk about The Apprentice. I'm just happy for Sebastian Stan to get some sort of notoriety as he got here at the Globes with a double nomination and a win.
2 things here. For one thing, I think that this award for Sebastian Stan was a way for them to honor both of his performances. It feels to me like what they were doing here was not saying, you know, this is just for A Different Man. It was for both nominated performances, and they just gave it to him in the easier category. And his work in A Different Man is very good, but that's not the one that I expect to be in the Oscar conversation. What this did for me is it just made me more confident that Sebastian Stan has enough buzz around him to make it in for The Apprentice this year. So I will be sticking with The Apprentice. Surprise, surprise. I've been saying it literally all year. But to me, that's what this helped with. I'm not thinking that A Different Man could be a spoiler for the last slot. This just boosts The Apprentice so much more, especially because he talked about The Apprentice in his speech about as much as he talked about A Different Man. You know, it's like his speech was accepting the award for both performances. The other thing that this does for me is it solidifies that A Different Man is likely in the makeup category, because clearly it has enough eyes on it, and I do think that it will make it into that category at the end of the day. And if not, it's like right on the outside, but I can't doubt it at this point.
And at least for me, I remember when the Globes, like what category you were in, came out, and I was pretty upset that they decided to put The Apprentice over in drama and not in comedy, because I believe that he would have won the Golden Globe comedy for The Apprentice, and it's funny how he won the Golden Globe comedy for the other film. But no, I agree with everything that you just said. I think Sebastian Stan is our number 5. I think it checks off the boxes of what the Academy wants to do, and the fact that he won for another performance, like you said, it gets eyes on both of them. And yes, I understand people out there will be like, well, he's vote splitting, but honestly, if you want my complete transparent opinion, I think he'll get more votes for both of these films than Hugh Grant or Daniel Craig will get for their one film.
I don't know. But I think from this point, he makes the BAFTA for The Apprentice. SAG, I still think is a toss-up, but I think he makes SAG as well. People are going to keep trying to deny it because for some reason, people just don't want The Apprentice to be a thing. I don't know what it is. Like, again, we were saying this on the last video, saying that people are really going to, people have really pegged The Apprentice as a villain this year. And someone in the comments was saying, you know, why would this movie be a villain? It's been the underdog all year long. People have been trying to stamp it out. The only people that should hate this movie are the you know, Trump lovers, the MAGA people. Those would be the ones who make it a villain. But that hasn't been the case this year. The people who have been hating on this movie the most are like, I think what the filmmakers probably thought was the target demographic for it.
It's so weird because, yeah, like you said, The Apprentice just seems like no one wants to give it a shot. And that's just not the build-up for what a typical villain is. It's the build-up for what the typical people's champ is. The film that people are saying, no, give this a shot. It's like the May December where no one wants to watch it. But if you watch it, you tend to like it for the most part. And I think The Apprentice hits the same thing. And as you've been saying all year long, international bodies are more receptive. And the Globes nominations, the BAFTAs, long list, and the Oscars will probably give it, if not 1, if not 2, maybe even 3 nominations at the end of the day. But let's use that as a springboard to go to our last category that for the acting branch that we haven't talked about. And arguably, you can make a case that this should have been our real winner of Motion Picture Comedy Musical Lead Actor winner, Kieran Culkin for Real Pain, where he wins here. And this, for me, I know I'm very late to the party here. This amidst the Culkin sweep is upon us. I was hoping Globe would throw us a curveball, whether that would be Guy Pearce, if it would be Borisov, if it would be Denzel Washington. But no, it's just Kieran Culkin. And his speech, he didn't even do anything with his speech. Like, Kieran Culkin, you expect him to do something. His speech was just like, yeah, I won. I knew I would win. Bye. See you next time.
But that's his vibe, man. Like, that's what people are signing up for by giving him a win. You know, and it's cemented to me that, like, his performance in the movie really is just him. He kind of just floats through life, and he's very entertaining in A Real Pain. I just can't get behind awarding him for this movie because so much of it feels like he doesn't care. And I know that not caring about getting an award is not something that determines it. But God, man, like, I like when people are grateful for it. I like when people get up there and it's clear that it means something major to them. You know, Kieran Culkin walks up there and he's like, yeah, I almost dropped out of this movie because I didn't care about it, and I didn't care about the press, and I didn't care about anything, and I barely even cared to show up to set on time. And, you know, I put in no work for this, and here I am. I'm just gonna sweep the season because people like my persona. And again, like, he is incredibly enjoyable in this movie. I wouldn't vote for him, but he's an entertaining person to watch. And even his speech, which was clearly completely unprepared, even though he knew he was winning, there's charm to it. There's charm because it's his, like, nonchalant, weird persona. But at the same time, I don't know, man, like, I'm not going to be looking forward to his speech. I'm not going to be looking forward to his speeches at every awards show because it's just going to be the same, like, waltzing up and being like, yeah, whatever, who cares?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I went to two FYC events this past week for Dune and Challengers, and I talked with some people who were actual voters for various industry awards shows, and they said the exact same thing that you said right there, is they like Kieran Culkin because he's doing Kieran Culkin, and while, yeah, his performance may be what they know, they find him so lovable, so fun to listen to. His Q&As are the best Q&As because him and Jesse Eisenberg, they don't get moderators. They just ask the question straight to the crowd, and they talk with people, and they're running the circuit, and he's playing the game. I mean, he's won how many Emmys or been nominated for how many? He's been around. He's just done this on the TV side, and now we talk about stats all the time. He's breaking the stat for that Emmy to Oscar thing. All you got to do is just be yourself. Who needs a biopic transformative performance? Just be the same guy you won the Emmy for, and you'll win it again.
Well, I suppose there's something to be said here for authenticity, I guess, because, he is undoubtedly the most authentic person on the campaign trail. He's not pretending to be anything. He's not doing anything more than what he is. And that is refreshing. But I feel like my attitude on this would be very different if I really loved his performance, which, I don't. I think he's good, but I don't think I'd put him anywhere near my nominees.
And just to touch on one more thing for this category as a whole, and I think this extends to some other stuff in this award season. There's so much talk about category fraud, and I feel like the direction of this hate being thrown in certain directions but ignored in others, at least to me, is really weird. Like, I get if you love Kieran Culkin, you love A Real Pain, but like, if you're throwing so much blame on Zoe Saldana in the supporting actress race
or
for
Ariana Grande
being the wrong category, I mean, I don't even see that much for Grande. I was going to get to that too. Is like, give it to all of them. The screen data's out there. They're all within minutes of the person who they're in the film with in lead. So, like, if you have an issue with Saldana, have the same issue of Grande. And you have the issue with them, have it for Culkin. It goes both ways. And then, I mean, I'm at fault for this too, early in the season, saying like, oh, Isabel Rossellini, she's not real, she's in one scene. But on reflection, watching all these movies multiple times, like, Rossellini is like a true supporting performance. She's in there for a scene, she has her mic drop moment, she goes away. That's gonna move us over to best screenplay. We've talked so much about speeches. Conclave is going to continue to win adapted screenplay prizes, and this is going to continue to be the most nonchalant, laid-back speech of the night, giving just a total different dynamic feel. But the only thing this really proves to me is Conclave is still in the hunt for Best Picture. It didn't win drama here, but it shows, at least the Globes, it is the strongest screenplay, similar to Anatomy of a Fall last year, and it will continue to win. Obviously, it's not eligible at WGA, but it will win the BAFTA. It will continue to win critics groups, and we'll get to the Oscars, and it will win adapted, and it will propel Conclave to being top 3. Does that mean a Best Picture win? Maybe not, but it's at least in the convo.
Mm-hmm. Yep, nothing to say there. Completely agree with you. I'm interested to see what happens at Critics' Choice next week. Are they going to go with Sing Sing? Are they going to go with Conclave? I lean Conclave because they like to predict, but also they love Sing Sing, and they might notice that it's on the downward spiral, so maybe they think that giving it an award could boost it, because I feel like, again, Critics' Choice Award does shit like that year in, year out, where they try to sway things in their favor.
And usually, at least in my reflection of Critics' Choice, is usually their way of swaying does not typically pan out for the rest of the season. They're usually like they're always like the Oscar predicting group, but when they do their own thing, which they should do more often, it doesn't really work out in the way they're hoping for it to work out. But talking about swaying things and doing something different, let's jump over to Best Motion Picture Animated, where, Matt, I think you deserve an apology to yourself for not sticking with yourself here for Flow.
Well, I mean, it made so much sense to give it to Wild Robot, and although I was, like, sitting there thinking, Flo could absolutely do it, why go against the movie that has 4 nominations?
I agree.
But here we go. I mean, Flow did it without an international feature nomination. It won. It's what I've been saying all along. Boy and the Heron last year was not just a symptom of it being Hayao Miyazaki, because if that was the case, he would have won for The Wind Rises. It also had to do with the fact that these voting bodies are shifting. They are changing. And so I still believe what we're going to see this year is Golden Globe and BAFTA go Flow, Critics' Choice and Annie go Wild Robot. And then at the end of the day, I think we're going to see Flow win the Oscar.
I think personally that would be a great win. As much as I love The Wild Robot, we see movies like The Wild Robot, and Flow is so original. I do prefer Flow a little bit more. And Flow, they're both cinematic. I don't want to say Flow is more cinematic. They're both very cinematic. But I just think, like you're saying there, Flow appeals to a different voter base, a voter base that is growing inside the Academy. And I think this Golden Globes win is like the perfect thing for this run to keep going. I know CCA's ballots have already closed, but like if CCA ballots were still open, I wouldn't be shocked to see CCA flip over to Flow.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not their type of movie. They go with basic stuff in animated. They go with the popular things. They go with what they expect the Academy to do, which is usually the popular stuff. But that's changing. And it's not just changing because of Miyazaki. It's changing because the voting demographic is changing. And they're going to do cooler, more animated stuff. They're going to take into consideration the words that Guillermo del Toro said. Animation is cinema. So I think we will see Flow end up winning the Oscar this year.
And now that is going to move us into some of our specialized categories. And let's close with music, and let's give Wicked some attention that we haven't given it very much over the Cinematic and Box Office Achievement Award. And at least what the Wicked win shows me is, hey, last year we saw that they went with Barbie over Oppenheimer because the film made money and it got awards attention. And this year, while there were films that made more money than Wicked, Wicked was the one that made the most in awards conversation, and that's why Wicked kind of takes this constellation prize here.
This is a joke award. It only exists so that on the Wikipedia page of the Golden Globes, you go back and search what the big popular movie of that year was, and you see, oh, it won a Golden Globe. Cool. It's so that like weird shit like it's so that like weird snubs don't happen of like Wicked would have gotten blanked without this. And I'm sure that down the road, people are going to remember Wicked as being the movie of this year. And so it's just a way for the Golden Globes to be like, see, we gave that big movie that you all loved an award. This award doesn't matter to me. It's the same as the Academy Awards doing Best Popular Film. It's just a way to say that they're in touch with what people like, rather than just awarding stuff like the 3.5 hour long Holocaust drama or the Netflix movie that no one watched. That's all this award is. It's trying to stay in touch.
I guess I see your point. I would disagree, but I think it can be two things at once. I think it can be everything that you're saying on the negative side, but I think on the positive side, it can be something new and fresh as in terms of a nomination, and it can get other films some sort of nomination to have some sort of attention at these shows. And obviously, Barbie last year went on to win 1 Oscar. Wicked this year may go on to win 2 Oscars. And eventually we'll have a film that will do both, that will be in a big, huge, above-the-line contender at the Oscars, maybe winning picture or an acting award or even director, and winning this Populist Achievement Award. And I just think this is another way to give... I get these films made money, that's their prize, but we also see the nominations here. It's not just the 8 highest grossing movies of the year. They have stuff like The Wild Robot. They have stuff like Alien Romulus that made money on their small budgets and show that, hey, they are an achievement, and giving them some extra love, some extra notoriety. Is it much? No, but at least to me, in terms of someone who likes award season, it's always fun seeing different nominations at a body. This is the only place that does it, like how the BAFTAs were the only one who did casting, and other people are doing that afterwards. Hopefully we can get stunts before the Oscar considered doing cinematic and box office achievement, though. But that's going to move us over to our final category here with the Globes. And this is the one that makes me the most happiest because Challengers, I've been saying this since we saw the movie at the beginning of the year. I want it to win. I'm predicting it to win. And it's at least starting to win. Obviously, it can't sweep. BAFTA didn't even make the long list, but it's got the Globe. CCA seemed like the body most receptive to go for it. So it could have 2 of the 3 major precursors heading into the Oscar night.
Yeah. Globes, Critics' Choice. I don't know what takes BAFTA. It's either Conclave, Brutalist, or maybe Emilia Perez. And then, I'm torn. What do we do going into the Oscars? Do we go with, it feels almost like a 2022 situation with Babylon versus All Quiet on the Western Front. Which one do you go with? Do you go with the Golden Globe Critics' Choice one? Or do we go with the BAFTA? And I'm going to stick with Challengers. I feel like it missing the BAFTA long list was a fluke. It feels wrong for that to have happened. So, it's got the Grammy, it's got all of that. And plus, Conclave doesn't feel like a winner. Emilia Perez doesn't feel like a winner. Brutalist, I wish it felt like a winner to me because I love that score. It's my favorite score of the year. But I've been burned on scores like that too many times before. Orchestral classical scores are not the type of thing that the Academy goes for right now. They like to go for things that have more modern sounds. Challengers is that. So that's what I'm sticking with.
And I think for Challengers, if it happens to lose the CCA, because someone in our Discord actually brought it up that Babylon did not win CCA and Globe. It lost CCA to a movie that didn't even have a score, being Tar.
Right, Tar.
So to me, if Challengers wins the CCA, I'm sticking with it regardless of what BAFTA did, because BAFTA clearly showed they cared nothing about that movie, as BAFTA showed with like the Fablemans that year, and Fablemans still did great with nominations. It didn't win anything, but it still showed its strength at the Oscars, and Challengers has more strength than like Fablemans. And I'm using Fablemans as an example because someone brought that up the other day, but I'm sure there's countless films that struggle at the BAFTA because the BAFTAs just don't care for it, and it does completely fine when we hit the Oscar, especially in these craft categories like Black Panther. That's a better example. Black Panther did nothing at the BAFTA and it won multiple Oscars. So that's kind of how I'm feeling with Challengers. But if it loses CCA, especially to something like Dune Part 2, which I feel like CCA would do to stand up and be like, hey, we support this score even though no one else does. Or maybe they go with something more conventional like Conclave, Brutalist, Emilia Perez. But like, as long as Challengers wins there, I'm cool.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, which is that Critics' Choice does do weird shit in the score category.
But before that, they went with Tar, Dune, Soul, Joker, First Man. So they were a little bit more consistent upon then with a lot of eventual Oscar winners. Yeah, I'm going back to 2010, and almost every year is the eventual Oscar winner besides the one year they went out of their way for Tar, which music's great, but original score, don't know as much for that. But yeah, so maybe what we should do is whatever CCA does, even though they are the Oscar predictors, they have a great track record because outside of Tar and outside of First Man, they have hit in this category every year since 2010.
Well, First Man is actually a great comparison for Challengers because that won both the Globe and the Critics' Choice Award, didn't even get nominated for the Oscar. So Challengers could follow in the same footsteps. I doubt it. And I guess another part of that is that Justin Hurwitz had just won for La La Land, and Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross have just very recently won for Soul. So we could see similarities between First Man and Challengers, but I'm not going to hang on to that too much. I'm going to stick with, if Challengers wins the Critics' Choice Award, it wins the Oscar.
And I will be right there with you. But that's going to bring us to the conclusion of this Golden Globes Winners React video. And I found this pretty fun. How about you, Matt?
Dude, I mean, the Golden Globes are always one of the most fun ceremonies because it's the first time we're seeing like how people who actually have sway feel about the season. All these regional critics, they don't mean shit when it comes to the end of the day. And this does, despite the fact that there's no voter overlap. There's speeches, and the speeches influence things. So this is our first little sneak peek into what awards season will be this year. And I mean, it's fun. It's fun.
Well, thank you all so much for tuning into our discussion. If you made this far in the video, consider dropping a like. Let us know down in the comments. We're in a brand new year. A new award season is quickly approaching. What switches would you like to see for us? If you want new background, want us to switch something else up with how we do these, because we have a lot of fun. So we're having fun. We're not really seeing any issues you out there may be seeing. So let us know what you would like to see from us going forward. But until next time, my name's Dyl.
And my name's Matt, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.